Where's the time? Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. In a few minutes, we will have our first speaker from afar, Hanumat Preshika Swami. No one pronounces his name correctly, including him. But it's Hanumat Preshika Swami. In any case, we're delighted to have him. I think he's perhaps joining. And each of the speakers will join us for 5 minutes or so to just reflect informally about Goswami, any reflections, not necessarily anecdotes, but just any thoughts and feelings that come up. Let's see, are we getting the Swami up here yet? It says, unmute. Unmute him. Let's see, ask to unmute. Let's see. We have our techies here. Let's see, Nritya Kishore is here, and am I doing this right? I'm asking him to unmute. See, what I'm seeing here is very different than what you're seeing. Here we go.
Oh, I see.
You can do whatever you want.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, that's a little loud, isn't it? Yeah. Swamiji?
This is the Wizard of Oz. Do not look behind the curtain.
That's what I thought you were. We're respecting the Swami, not the wizard. Swamiji, my pranams. We can't see you. We can't see you, Swami.
One second.
Okay, you can press video. You can see the video up, down, below, I think on your screen, left, bottom.
You have to take one second here because we're heading to Rath Yatra in Boise. But in 1 second, 2 seconds,
Okay.
3 seconds,
Okay.
4 seconds. Okay, here I am. And I go ahead and I pushed my camera.
There you're
okay,
not.
Now you have a picture of my bed. Okay,
there we are. Okay, there we go. Swamiji, good to see you.
That's what the wolf told Red Riding Hood.
Yeah. Swamiji, so good to have you. Your thoughts for a few minutes on Goswami. We have a nice crowd here who would like to hear from you. And I know that you attended back 14 years ago when we released his book, and you shared very nice thoughts at the time. This today is really just about Goswami the person.
Oh, okay, because I thought it was about the Swami the academic. Okay. Yeah.
Well, whatever you want to say, whatever your thoughts are.
Okay, very nice. I first met Tamal Krishna Mars when I was in San Francisco. I was coming as a guest to the temple, and he was there with the Radha Damodar party. And he gave us a Sunday feast lecture, and then had a little interaction with him and myself and my wife at that time. And that's kind of been my contact with Maharaj. We've been in different areas. One time when I was up in San Francisco and Berkeley, and he commented that he would never accept a position as GBC secretary for San Francisco or Berkeley because it was just too liberal for him. He said within 3 months he would be crazy and everybody working with him would be crazy. so different. Whereas I was quite comfortable there. Academically, my experience, I've read Maharaj's books and such nice contributions, But I think my experience, his real power was in actually academic administration, and getting other people to do the things and developing and helping them. Very specifically, for example, I was wondering about getting involved with the Bhaktivedanta Institute with Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami. I started in electrical engineering. I did quantum mechanics at Cal, And then I saw that was limited, so I changed to biological engineering, you know. And then I finally graduated in psychology and started improvisational theater. So it's a very nice progression. And so when I was being told, oh, you should join the Bhaktivedanta Institute and help develop preaching in the scientific areas, I was wondering about this. So on a puppet tour, we ended up in New York, and I met Maharaj there, and I discussing my confusions and inquietudes. He looked at me very, with very strong Tamal Krishna Maharaj's glance, and he said, uh, Prabhupada said over and over again for his entire last year, scientific preaching is my number one preaching program. You moron. He didn't say you moron, but, very strong. And yeah, that gave me so much perspective. It's up to my entire life. It's been, a very important point in my own development of academic work and everything else. So today, it's a very, very nice opportunity to remember him and his association, which I'd like to think it's eternal. We're all going to be in Navadvip in our next lifetime, and somebody will be Chand Kazi, and somebody will be Hiranya, and somebody will be Devananda Pandit, and yeah, yeah. And so I guess, that's a little bit of our perspective on Maharaj, and we hope it's a very, very successful program today. We wish we were there. Oh, Garuda bird.
Can you hear me? There we go.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, good. No, thank you, Swamiji. What's the last memory you have of Goswami? Just quickly.
Oh my God, the last memory. I don't. Maybe it was with when we were doing Rangini Ketan, our Manipuri group with Baruch Soup Damodar, and we were performing at Killarney Performing Arts Center, Epcot Center, different places. And at lunchtime, I was there with Maharaj and with him and myself, and he said, it doesn't bother me, but I wanted to tell you that some people are critical because you're a sannyasi and you're involved with this Manipuri troupe, and there's so many girls dancing and this and that. And then I commented that Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj had actually asked Prabhupada, he said, I'm a brahmachari, and I'm working with these Manipuri programs which involve, the ladies dancing and stuff. Is that appropriate? And he said, Prabhupada asked him and said, are you agitated? And he said, no, I can take it. It's all very spiritual. And Prabhupada said, it is all right. Yeah. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, okay. Yeah. So that was our
That's
last
not.
interaction. And it was
That's
academic and cultural administration. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Very good. Very good. Thank you so much, Swamiji. I hope you enjoy the Rath Yatra.
I hope Lord Jagannath enjoys it. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Jai. Thank you, Swamiji. Hare Krishna. Jai. Okay. So now I'm going to share my screen somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Let me see. Share. Okay. But what am I going to share? I need to see. Was he? Yeah. But my slideshow. Yeah, that's what I need. Okay, this is what I want. Yeah. Now, don't go away. Don't go away. I need you right here. Okay. So, what do I do?
Where's the sign? Is it this?
No, there.
Okay, double click.
Double click. Okay. Okay, so that's good, right?
And then I don't know if you want
You know what? We'll keep it like that. I think. Yeah, that's safe because. Yeah, I mean, I suppose. Yeah, because I want to skip some.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay, so today, really, there are two parts. The first is devotee scholars' appreciations of Goswami. So, the Tamal Krishna Goswami Memorial Foundation was kind enough to help me put on a conference at Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley, which is associated with University of California, Berkeley. And without the foundation's support, we would not have been able to do this. So I do want to thank You know I make a lot of fun of Rusty Kendraji, but now I'm seriously wanting to thank Rusty Kendra, and please join me in thanking him very much for the help that he gave. Yes. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Not too much. Not too much, okay? Okay, I need more from him later, so, okay. Okay, so a little appreciation's good, not too much, okay? So basically, Rusty Kendra and I arranged to have this conference at Graduate Theological Union. The significance of having it at Graduate Theological Union is that Prabhupada had visited Graduate Theological Union, and the original scholar to write on ISKCON was Stilson Judah, Professor Judah. Some of you I see are nodding. Mukundaji is nodding. I think Gary, remember Stilson Judah, right? So he wrote the first book on ISKCON. Prabhupada was pleased, and it was an academic treatment of ISKCON. So it really set a precedent. And so Prabhupada had gone there several times, met with Stilson Judah, and he said, we should be here. So that's why I'm there on the faculty. Even though I teach in Virginia, I'm also in Berkeley. So it's a little bi-coastal faculty responsibilities. In any case, what's that? Full screen? Okay. Okay, I've just been told to do full screen by Nritya Kishori Mataji. Okay, very good. So we had this conference it was a closed conference. Only devotee scholars could come. Now, remember, this is in honor of Goswami. Goswami was a scholar practitioner. This is generally thought to not be a good idea in terms of scholarship. You're supposed to be objective, so you shouldn't be that involved in the very tradition on which you are producing scholarship. But it's funny, the academic arena seems to demand this of Hindu practitioners, but somehow Buddhist scholars, it's all right to be Buddhist and a scholar. It's all right to be a Christian and a scholar. It's all right to be Jewish and a scholar, but it's not all right to be a Hindu and a scholar. I cannot for the life of me figure this out. Goswami literally went against the grain. He went to academic meetings, as I mentioned yesterday, in full devotional regalia, while, I'd been going for years in, sports jacket, open shirt, regular. I looked like the rest of them. But they all knew I was a bhakta. And they never really quite accepted that, but they did, but they didn't. As I'm publishing with worldwide publishers, they accepted it more, but they always knew, they said, this Graham Schweig fellow, he is a Krishna bhakta. Be careful of him, right? But Goswami comes in like a plow. I tried to go in like a needle and got stepped on. Goswami goes in like a plow, and everyone liked it. I was upset with him. I told him that over lunch once. I said, how is it you get away with this? I can't even wear tilak to a conference, and you come in with everything. So anyway, so we had this conference, and I want to share with you some of the appreciations. Here are, how is that not showing up? Right. Oh, see, that goes to another slide. So I want to show you pictures of our bright little faces. See, we'll just keep it on this one, I guess. There we are. So most of these are devotee scholars. Some of them had to come in through Zoom. There are two that came in through Zoom that are not shown here. But we'll go through all of them. The one on the far left, this is an imposter. This is Rusty Kendra. He did not belong there. He was not invited there, but I insisted that he come. That's different than an invitation. Okay? So let's go through some of these. Let's see. Okay, so this is Koja Bohanik or Kishore Shyam. And he is a relatively new scholar, and he expressed his appreciation. He said, Goswami also showed that bhakti is not reducible to sentiment alone. In that sense, his theological legacy is both intellectual and spiritual. He helped articulate a vision of Krishna bhakti as a living tradition in which truth is not only taught, but realized through transformed perception, loving practice, and devotional service. Our next scholar here is Vineet Chander, or Venkatabhatta, who is at Princeton University as a chaplain, not as a professor, but as a chaplain. And he recently got his doctorate from New York University. This is in a letter he wrote. I wanted to offer my heartfelt thanks for such a deeply meaningful and enlivening gathering, and it really was. Venkata's comments here really captured the mood of this conference. Garuda Prabhu, your vision in convening this space was palpable. I think we all felt Krishna Bhakti theology as something living, breathing, and even playing. Rita Sharma was the GTU host at the Center for Dharma Studies, who worked with me and Rasikendra. I'm equally grateful for your presence and partnership in shaping this thoughtful environment and encouraging us to undertake this project. And my thanks as well to, well, we won't mention the rest, as well to Rasikendra and the foundation for their support in making this possible. So they were all so appreciative to Rasikendra and the foundation. And they were so happy to be there to reflect on Goswami's contributions. And I asked them mainly to focus on the Living Theology book, but they also went into other areas. Remember Rasikendra? They went into A Servant of the Servant, they went into his research papers, and even a chapter written for a Columbia University book. So these were devotee scholars who were very well versed in Goswami's work, scholarly products. Let's see here. Okay, so he made I can't read this because this is in the way. How do I get this out of the way? There we go. He models a way of thinking that is fully anchored in Srila Prabhupada and the Gaudiya theological lineage, yet is also unafraid to ask how the inheritance continues to speak, adapt, and unfold in new contexts. So this is Goswami pushing the boundaries. He's observing this. And my theme is, he is always pushing the boundaries. Why is Goswami pushing the boundaries? Because he knows there's so much wealth in our tradition that needs to come out. So he wants to push, he wants to dig deeper, dig deeper, dig deeper. This was Goswami's mood. Many of you here have experienced this personally. I didn't directly experience this with him because I was telling him to go deeper in his books when I was editing his books and helping him with his dissertation at the time. In that chapter, the call for constructive theology gestures toward a future in which ISKCON can be intelligible, relevant, and accessible to the wider world. This is so important. ISKCON has suffered from a very severe case of isolationism. We are very happy in our own little, world, but do we know how to go out into the world? Do we really know how to communicate and connect with others? Not by diluting or departing from our essential theological principles, but by honoring them even as we express them in ways that may sound different from the ways they were articulated in ISKCON's first 50 years. For example, when I wrote my dissertation for Harvard University on the Rasa Panchadhyayi, on the Ras Leela, and describing the Ras Mandala, Prabhupada says Krishna expanded himself to each of the gopis. We all know what that means, but an outsider thinks Krishna kind expanded. You think that's quite funny, don't you? Well, so do the outsiders. Okay? So I don't use that term. I say Krishna duplicates himself multiple times. There's no confusion there. No one is thinking that Krishna is gaining an enormous amount of weight. In that space, TKG's legacy felt very much alive, offering us a way to imagine how Krishna Bhakti might continue to serve ISKCON and the world at large with integrity, depth, and compassion. These are beautiful words from Venkata. Okay, where are we here? Okay, let's see. Well, in service of brevity, since we've got limited time, this is Guy Beck, or known as Santosh. Santosh was a godbrother, is a godbrother of mine who teaches at Tulane University. His specialization is music. His first book was Sonic Theology. So he writes, surprisingly, when I began my study of Indian classical music in Calcutta, to the chagrin of some ISKCON devotees, Goswami stepped in and invited me to perform in Bombay, all expenses paid. This made everything I was doing legit. You see, when no one else was willing to take chances, Goswami pushed forward. And, without hesitation, he was courageous. He was not self-conscious about maybe people will criticize. He was really an innovator. I especially recall his talent for bridging the gap between Indian culture and devotion. His legacy is thus awakened, not awkward, thus awakened in me a desire to pursue his vision of unifying Krishna Bhakti and Indian music. And for that, I'm eternally grateful to him and to Srila Prabhupada. Again, beautiful words. Some others who couldn't attend, that's why I have the circle up there. I believe Pranava. Pranava is in Sweden at the University of Stockholm. I was on his dissertation exam back in the day and also an advisor for his dissertation. Goswami's phrase that Prabhupada's theology should become the locus of our attention remains, for me, one of the most important things written about him. He writes that preservation is never passive receptivity. For me, Goswami's work continues to serve both devotees and scholars by helping us appreciate Krishna Bhakti as a living theological world of great depth and beauty. So Pranavaji really deeply appreciated what Goswami did. And just to go take that a little further, I summarize here. Let's see here. This reflection highlights Tamal Krishna Goswami's contribution to understanding Srila Prabhupada as a profound theologian whose teachings deserve sustained theological attention. So this is my summary of what Pranava wrote. The author especially values Goswami's insistence that Prabhupada's theology itself, not merely his historical role, should be the focus of study. The passage also situates Prabhupada within the broader Gaudiya lineage, noting how Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati prepared the way for Krishna Bhakti to engage the modern world while remaining faithful to its spiritual foundations. You see, these scholars are really deeply connecting with Goswami's pivotal place within the world of scholarship. That's probably my mother. Please tell her I'll talk to her later. She passed away 10 years ago, but she keeps trying to get a hold of me. No, I'm telling you. I mean, she really does. I get calls in the middle of lectures everywhere. Okay, you're not taking me seriously. That's fine. Very few people take me seriously. Rusty Kendra does, though. He takes me seriously. This is Janaki Ram. He says, He possessed a rare ability to identify the essential challenge at the heart of any topic and to address it with clarity and precision. Oh, he is so right about that. He is so right about that. Rather than treating Prabhupada merely as an historical figure of sociological interest, which had been the case, by the way, in the academy, or merely as a Hindu guru associated with 20th century countercultural movements, as was also being done for a few decades, he opened a sustained inquiry into Prabhupada's philosophical and theological contributions. This is exactly what Swamiji did, what Goswami did, by writing that dissertation. He literally opened the door for scholars to take Prabhupada seriously. Okay. In doing so, Tamal Krishna Goswami made it possible for both scholars and practitioners to approach Prabhupada as a serious thinker who developed and articulated a distinctive theological vision within the broader field of Krishna Bhakti. Very nice. Radhika Raman, Ravi Gupta, Radhika Raman. He also writes an email to everyone. I too join the chorus of voices thanking you for this joyous gathering of Vaishnava scholars, for thoughtful and thought-provoking conversations, and for the sense of friendship and collaboration that emerged. You have to remember, this conference in honor of Goswami was the first time that devotee scholars exclusively came together. We often mix with other outside scholars and inside scholars. This was only for Vaishnava scholars, scholars who practice and scholars who study. I am grateful to Rasi Kendra Prabhu, unfortunately we're getting more compliments for him, for making this possible, and to each of you for your presentations. I learned much. They embody the reason that Tamal Krishna Goswami continues to serve as a role model for me and many others. His uncompromising devotion as a follower of Srila Prabhupada and his uncompromising integrity as a scholar. To be able to put those two together is no easy task. To be rigorously scholarly and to be deeply devotional personally. This is not easy. Indeed, Tamal Krishna Goswami's academic endeavors were not merely for the purpose of gaining a prestigious title. He entered academia in order to wrestle with difficult historical and theological issues. He's right on about this. And to bring the Krishna movement into conversation with those issues. Tamal Krishna Goswami's book, A Living Theology of Krishna Bhakti, represents a watershed moment for Vaishnava scholarship as he brought Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON directly into conversation with the intellectual concerns of our time. Again, beautifully articulated. Let's see, who would this be? Oh, Amit Kumar, who is disciple of Goswami, Agabit Prabhu. He attended from India through Zoom. Over the next 10 years that I interacted, served, and associated with him, that would be Goswami, I witnessed his practice of this theology being focused on developing loving relationships, as Dr. Schweig so wonderfully mentions in the book as the theology of the heart. Goswami in his book defines this theology as a living theology, as the contemporary manifestation of a long and vital theological tradition, and also as a theology capable of bringing the whole practice of Krishna Bhakti into the lives of persons, not only in modern times, but around the globe in various cultures. Agabitji, with the help of Rasi Kendra and some other godbrothers, made it possible for him to attend Graduate Theological Union in getting a doctorate there. So he's still finishing his doctorate, but we wanted to include him as well, even though he was very young scholar at this point. Gopal Hari, he is at Aurora University. I was on his doctoral dissertation committee, examination committee at Oxford University. I was also for Janaki Ram's, by the way. Oxford keeps flying me over the big puddle to this is a first in Vaishnava history. A devotee, or something of a devotee, namely moi, okay, moi, French. Do you know French? Okay, fine, whatever. A devotee examining a doctoral candidate. That has never happened before. So Gopal Hari was one of those, and he wrote, over the next 10 years that I interacted, served, and associated with him, I witnessed his practice of this theology being focused on developing loving relationships, as Dr. Schweig so wonderfully mentions in the book as the theology of the heart. They keep mentioning this. Goswami, in his book, defines the theology as a living theology, as the contemporary manifestation. Wait a minute. This is a repeat. Okay? Well, apparently you all needed to hear it twice. Okay? It appears to be my mistake. No. It sort of is, but okay. Let me get to what he really said. Okay. His last 11 days in Mayapur mirror what Dr. Schweig mentions in his book, how bhakti transforms the life of the bhakta into something more beautiful and more elevated. Thus, death itself for the bhakta becomes a welcomed phase of life. I summarize Gopal Gupta's. This reflection identifies Tamal Krishna Goswami's enduring contribution as his ability to unite deep fidelity to the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition with the intellectual courage and theological creativity. He presented Krishna Bhakti not as a static collection of inherited doctrines, but as a living theological tradition capable of addressing fundamental human questions about identity, relationship, community, and divine love. In doing so, he encouraged both practitioners and scholars to understand bhakti as a transformative and relational mode of knowing, grounded in scripture and oriented toward prema, the highest form of divine love. First of all, you can see how bright these scholars are. They're all younger than me, because I was the first one to go back into the academy to infiltrate, in some sense, to establish Vaishnava studies as a field of knowledge. And Prabhupada blessed me when he read my master's thesis. At that time, I was at the University of Chicago. Sacharya remembers those days when I was there. And Satsvarup forced me to send my master's thesis to Prabhupada at a time when Prabhupada was not well. He was ill, and I didn't want to send it to Prabhupada to interrupt his translation work. But Satsvarup said, he threatened me. He said, I will never write to you again if you don't send it. And I was very attached to the letters we were exchanging back then, because Satsvarup at the end of his letters would draw little pictures of me as Garuda bird, picking up snakes with the talons with the names of various scholars with whom I was studying. I still have these letters, by the way. So I was so when I was indignant. He said, I wrote back and said, okay, so don't write to me. And then I was really depressed. And I said, the only way to get rid of my depression is send Prabhupada my master's thesis. So I did. And who happened to be Prabhupada's secretary at the time, because they were switching quite a bit in those days, those last months, Satsvarup was. So Satsvarup wrote to me and said, Prabhupada was reading your thesis while he was on the bed. And he said, I am pleased, tell him I am pleased he is preaching on such a high level. So that was not, no, yeah, okay. Finished, that's it. I said stop. It's a very disobedient crowd. You're pushing the boundaries. Oh, wait. See, this is what Goswami's fault. Yeah, he trained. Yes, exactly, right. Okay, who is this? Okay, I suggest it's an imposter. Okay, so he was there. He was not to present, but he was so sweet. He flew in for the day to hear most of the presentations, and everyone was really happy to see him there, except for me. I was overjoyed to see him there. Exactly. And there is, well, yeah, there's Rita Sharma on the left. The picture's a little distorted. She's kind of squinting, and the guy on the right looks sort of funny. Okay, let's see here. Now, one thing I should tell you is that Rita Sharma, right. Whoops, what happened here? Did I do something? Okay, the techies are working on it. Well, I can be telling you something. Rita Sharma is the director and founder of the Center for Dharma Studies at Graduate Theological Union. I've been teaching there since 2017, mainly because Prabhupada said we should be there. So Rita Sharma heard that, and she said, okay, Garuda, she knows me by my devotee name, said, so you should teach here. So I do. And I've worked with several doctoral students. Anyway, there have been several devotees that have gone through the program. And the whole idea is that we perhaps, and I'll speak about this a little later, we have this idea that perhaps we should bring a doctoral studies program for devotees that want to pursue serious studies of Krishna Bhakti there. Of course, there is also a new program going on in Mumbai that I'll also talk about a little later. Anyway, Rita Sharma's daughter was visiting her home, she and her father, and she's there. She was sitting next to me to my right. She was only coming, Rita asked her to come. She's in the sciences. She was only there to sort of help set up in the morning. And then she was going to go to Rita's office and do her own studies. She's getting her doctorate in something, some scientific area. She found when she started listening to the papers, she never left. She was so excited. Do you remember that, Rasi Kendra? She just stayed the whole time. She was so attracted to everything that was going on in this conference. Okay, so we're still looking for, okay, so I think we've got Hridayananda Goswami here as our next visitor. Let me see here. We're going to get him on here. Do I have to do anything, Nutik? Stop sharing? Okay, stop sharing. Here we go. Okay, Swamiji, can you hear me? Okay, wait, we can barely hear you. We can see your lovely form. Okay, and let me see, we can't hear him so well. It's faint, but I can barely hear you, so we're working on it. Okay, we're working on it. We got the techies working on it. Yeah, that would be nice and easy if we could do that. Yeah. We're moving along here. Let's see. Try again, Swamiji. Okay. No. Still faint. Still faint. They're working on it. Let me give you some assurances. My goodness. We're eager to hear your reflections. What's that? Oh, you can use mine. Use mine.
Maharaj, can you speak a little bit? I want to see if your mic's moving.
Hare Krishna. My volume is turned up all the way.
Okay, okay. Where is the speaker? Here, right? Yeah.
Okay, Swamiji, try speaking now. Yes, there we go. Okay, finally, welcome, Swamiji. Okay, you can go ahead, Swamiji.
All right. Dedicate himself, he would be thinking about this and coming up with all kinds of
Going.
about small Christian Goswami. One of the most dynamic, successful preachers in the history of Prabhupada movement, among the followers of Prabhupada.
Wonderful, Swamiji. That's really very inspiring to hear. What's your last meeting with Goswami like?
Very moving. Talked about So that I think is the point. I think, you know, it's like there's suddenly a fire that broke in the house, then everyone just forgets what they were doing, and they, you know, you flee, you try to put the fire out, you save people that need help, the elderly, the children. And so I think anyone who's not in that mood of this is an emergency to save Prabhupada's Western mission needs to really think harder about it. So, so that's the message.
That's wonderful.
Jamal felt it was urgent all those years ago, and now I'm sure he would think so. He very much so.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Swamiji. It really conveys a lot about Goswami. Yeah. Thank you. Let's all thank Swamiji. Jai. Again, thank you so much, Swamiji. Hare Krishna. Jai. Okay. So now we have Krishna Kshetra Swami. Can you hear me? Oh, and we can hear you. Whoops, where? Oh, there you are. Good. Okay. Swamiji, please enlighten us about some experiences or feelings you have toward Goswami. Okay, time's up. No, just kidding. Go ahead, Swamiji.
Properly participate and contribute to what was happening in what was supposed to happen in Mayapur. Next thing I know, I'm back in the University of California in Santa Barbara, and next thing I know is that Goswami Maharaj is also going to university uh, at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And he is calling me on the phone pretty much every week and sort of tagging in and checking with me, asking, so how is it going for you? So we were comparing notes. We have to be aware this was sort of uncharted territory, largely uncharted territory. Devotees studying in the university. Of course, Hridayananda Maharaj was studying at Harvard, or I think he may have completed by that time. But what I found, what I appreciated about Tamal Krishna Maharaj was his concern to be part of a bigger picture, which was really not clear what that picture was. And therefore, he was always concerned. Let us discuss together how after we get our degrees, what are we going to do? Fast forward, I'm at University of Oxford, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj is at University of Cambridge. And he is still calling me, and I would sometimes visit him. I would spend the weekend in Cambridge with him, and he would make a list of subjects. What are we going to talk about? And of course, what we were talking about was very much centered on this issue. What can we do for the mission of the spread of Krishna consciousness? How can we benefit it by our qualifications that we were pursuing? Again, fast forward, Tamal Krishna Maharaj moves to Oxford. He no longer needs to stay in Cambridge to do his to be present there, because he's now in process of completing the writing of his dissertation on Srila Prabhupada's theology. And a few times we go together to the public swimming pool and sauna, and we would have discussions in the sauna. In particular, he was preparing to write the final chapter of his book. As it happened, he would not write that final chapter because he went to Mayapur, and we all know what happened in Mayapur. But the point is, he would consult. He would consult with and try to draw out of me whatever he could to clarify his own thoughts, to help him as a kind of sounding board to clarify his thoughts on just how to represent Srila Prabhupada properly. He would have me read each chapter of his dissertation after he wrote it, and he was, as you all know, an exceptional writer. We would discuss about his writing style. He said, I don't move from one sentence to the next sentence until I am completely satisfied that I've written precisely how I want the one sentence. I said to him, I don't write that way. I make a rough draft, and then I go back and I revise and I revise. And he would say, oh, no, that's no way to write. Again, while he was this was, I think, soon after he came to Cambridge and I was in Oxford, he called me one day and he wanted suggestions on how to continue developing his knowledge of Sanskrit. He had taken some introductory Sanskrit at Southern Methodist University, but in Cambridge he was not doing any formal study because he was focusing on his dissertation, which didn't require Sanskrit. But he was concerned that he might lose what he had learned. He wanted to make sure that he could continue. So I was giving different suggestions. Well, you could, spend some time every day just taking whatever, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and analyzing the grammar of a verse, another verse like that. So making different suggestions, and he would say, yeah, no, that's not going to work. So he was finally he said, this is not going to work unless there's money on it. I said, Maharaj, what do you mean unless there's money on it? He said, we have to make a deal that you and I both will be taking a certain amount of time each day to study Sanskrit. And if we miss one day by honor system, we have to pay the other devotee. And so the agreement was that we would each spend at least 45 minutes a day studying Sanskrit, and for 5 days a week. We got 2 days off, so 5 days a week, 45 minutes. And if we missed one of those days, we had to confess and we had to pay the other £5. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, and you can be absolutely sure that I will never have to pay you £5. So we continued that deal, I think, for about a year.
How
I
much
was
money
in
did you
India
lose?
during that time studying, researching for my doctoral dissertation. But going back to the discussions we had in the sauna, this was, I think, if not the last, one of the last times I was with Goswami Maharaj, and then he went to India. And when we got the news of his departure, it was that morning. We expected to receive him in Oxford that day. So it was, it was a shock for the world. It was a shock, especially for us in Oxford, that he would no longer be with us, because it had been such a enlivening time when he was with us in Oxford. So these are a few thoughts.
Wonderful. Swamiji, you were invited to our conference. You remember that, right?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So
Yes.
you couldn't come to the conference, so this was a nice substitute talk you've just given. Where were you when we invited? Where were you when the conference took place? Oops. Oh, he went mute. Wait a second, Swamiji. We can't hear you.
Hare Krishna.
Oh,
Can
there
you
we are.
hear
There we
me?
are. You're back. You're back.
Okay.
Yeah. Where were you when the conference took place?
I was in China, and I've been going to China more or less every year since, 2007. I first went to China in 1989, or beginning 90, and I met Goswami Maharaj in Guangzhou. And there's a little story there, but that was the only time I met him in China. But he invited me, he encouraged me to continue going to China. And opportunity came. It came first to teach at a university in Hong Kong, where I was initially I was invited, and I thought, Hong Kong, why would I want to go to Hong Kong? And I was reminded, well, I think you would be inspired to go because Tamal Krishna Goswami would be very pleased if you would be there and be teaching in the university. So I was
So
doing
that's where you
that.
were. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Very good.
this time I was in what they call mainland China.
Oh, okay.
I've been doing over the years since 2012, I've been doing what I call freelance lecturing in different universities around China. And yeah, I have a strong feeling that this would be pleasing to Goswami Maharaj. This is what keeps me going there. It's kind of an austerity to be there, but it's an inspiration as well. And I feel, yes, I kind of feel this enables me to remember him and feel like I'm doing a little bit of service to contribute to the mission which he was bringing in so many ways to that amazing country.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Swamiji, thank you so much. Where are you right now speaking from?
I'm speaking from Serbia, North Serbia.
Okay. I don't know where that is, but that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
trust you.
part of the
Okay.
Balkan
Okay.
region. It's sort of Eastern Balkans. It's, near Bulgaria and so on.
Well, thank you so much, Swamiji, for coming today. We appreciate it. Let's please give Swamiji a
Thank you.
hand.
Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj ki jai.
Ki jai. Jai. Thank you, Swamiji. Okay. Well, next we have Rita Sharma. She, I think, appeared there a minute ago. Let me see if we get her back. And again, to remind you, Rita Sharma is the inaugural director of the Center for Dharma Studies at the Graduate Theological Union. And I work closely with her in doing some teaching out there and some doctoral dissertation mentoring and so on. Let's see if we get it. There's Rita. Okay. Rita, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, good. We can hear you. Very good. Welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, great, great. Well, this audience is already well acquainted with the conference that you so kindly hosted as the director of the Center for Dharma Studies. And I think we all had a really good time and very fruitful and very meaningful time. So everyone is aware of that. And what they may not be aware of is your own relationship with Goswami. So I thought you might reflect on that a little bit because it was, a very sweet interaction that you had with Goswami back in the day.
Yes, it was an honor to know him. I met him at the American Academy of Religion, where I had founded the Hinduism program unit in the hope of having space to do Hindu theology and philosophy. And I was on the steering committee for 6 years, and my very last task as a member of the steering committee was to have a panel, to organize and convene a panel in the 2001 meeting of the Hinduism program unit at the American Academy of Religion. I already knew him quite well from our many discussions, and what happened is that he um, requested to join and participate in that panel in 2001, November. And it was the last time I saw him, sadly. But all our discussions prior to that were entirely about the establishment of Hindu theology, not philosophy, not religious studies, but theology, living theology as a proper discipline within Hindu thought. And this was a challenge because people are not trained in the field, and therefore it's very difficult to establish something for which people have not been trained academically. It is also very difficult to speak to Hindu communities about this word theology because they think it is a Christian term. But it is not a Christian term. And so I think that it's very important to understand what we're looking at here. We are looking at his vision, which was the thoroughgoing establishment of Hindu theology as a broader field so that Chaitanya Vaishnav philosophy, so that Vaishnav philosophy could take a major place in it. Now, what did he and what did I mean by this term Hindu theology? What does it cover? So he and I spoke about this at great length, and we agreed that it covers major areas like divine nature, the relationship of Sri Krishna to the cosmos, to the universe, to the world, the relationship of the human being to Sri Krishna, the relationship of the human being to the greater world. It matters how we understand the world. If we think of the world as a fallen creation, or if we think of the world as something that is really just an illusion, that is a projection of Maya, then why should we care about the world, right? So, how we understand the divine relationship to the world is how we understand our ethical commitment as dharma to the world. So these are the things we discussed at great length. And then, there are many other categories that I won't go into right now, but all of these categories form what is known as systematic theology. That is what he and I discussed. How do you establish a field of Hindu systematic theology? And, it exists already. It is there through all the sacred texts. It's there in the Bhagavatam. It's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But it's not there in a systematic manner, in the sense that if someone who didn't know anything came off the street and wanted a book, wanted a program, wanted a workshop on a living theology, systematic living theology of Krishna Bhakti, where would they go? Not the details, not what this shloka says or that shloka says, but the entire overview, right? And so he was passionate about this. And we had planned to get together and formulate a proposal for establishing this both inside the American Academy of Religion and outside it for scholar practitioners and devotees. And of course, as you know, that could not happen. But I did try to carry his work forward. I just published a book with the title Hindu Ecological Theology, Ecological Liberation Theology. And it goes through a systematic understanding of divine nature in order to apply that understanding to the world, to the earth, to animals, to the more than human world. And I hope that we carry his work forward because the vision was extremely well developed, profound, and necessary.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. Just quickly, Rita, any thoughts and reactions to the meeting that we just had in April out there? What were your thoughts and afterthoughts?
Oh, the meeting we had at the GTU in Berkeley this April, that was supported by the Tamal Krishna Goswami Foundation, was a remarkable meeting. I don't think we have had such a meeting before in history, because we had people presenting from United States, from North America, from Europe, from UK, and from India. And these are all scholar practitioners. They're all professors whose life's work is developing this deep understanding and systematic framework for teaching what is Krishna Bhakti theology in a living context.
Wonderful, wonderful. So will you let us come back again?
I would be privileged and delighted.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so yeah, that's been recorded, Rita. Okay, so now we're going to remember this.
Oh,
Okay.
dear.
Yeah. What have you promised? That's right. Exactly. Thank you so much, Rita. Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Right. Yeah. No. Yeah, very good question. For those who may not have heard it, why a Hindu theology? Why not, say, a Bhakti theology? Why not Vaishnava theology? Why not, any other thing? But why Hindu? The problematic word is Hindu. Okay. Well, back in the early 1980s, actually late 1970s, I was writing articles for Back to Godhead. Satsvarup Maharaj was very interested. It was my early days at Harvard. And so I had written 3 articles that were published. The 4th article was titled, Way Down Upon the Sindh River, Is the Hare Krishna Movement a Form of Hinduism? And the title, of course, Way Down Upon the Swanee River is really the original. So I'm saying way down upon the Sindh River. Why the Sindh River? Because that's where invading Persians came to the Sindh River. And in Persian, apparently there's some problem pronouncing the S, as they said Hind, and the people on the other side of the river were then Hindus. How would you like it if I came down your street plundered your house and renamed you according to the street that you lived on and mispronounced the name. That's Hindu. Every other world tradition have names that make sense. Buddhism. I mean, I don't need to explain that to anybody, right? Shinto is the Shin religion. Christianity, Judaism, Islam. Islam is a name that Muslims love. It means submission to God. Hinduism, and that came around the 9th century, I believe, 9th century. So Hindus, quote unquote, are very ambivalent about the name Hindu. My article for BTG was then shown to Mukunda Maharaj because he was dealing a lot with the Hindu diaspora community. And he said, no, we should not publish this. So my article is the only time in history, my history, that anything has ever been rejected by my own godbrother, Mukunda Maharaj. Anyway, but the reason he did that is because according to Prabhupada, Krishna Bhakti is not Hindu on this level, on that level. I counted about 9. There's only one instance in which Prabhupada really acknowledges the word Hindu, somewhere in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and in relation to Muslims. Mukundaji, you see me nodding your head. You recognize that place? Adi Leela? Yeah, in the beginning. Okay. So it's there, but only tentatively. Would you agree, Mukundaji? Right? It's tentative. Yeah, it's sort of indirectly. So really, we as devotees, we don't call ourselves Hindu. However, in the academic arena, there are these different world religions. And one of them is Hindu, and to make matters worse, ism. Okay? I prefer the old British spelling of Hindu. I like the Hindoo. And I used to put little eyes. I make the O's like little eyes with eyebrows. I'm not sure why that's relevant. But anyway, the point is that it gets really ridiculous. I mean, Hindu is a word that doesn't mean anything itself. And yet it's an accepted category of world religions. Look, when I was young, when I was a teenager, if you called a police officer a cop, you could be arrested. Okay? I remember back in the days, and I grew up in Washington, D.C., where there was a lot of political unrest. Today, it's really nice there. Whatever, okay? But these days, police officers self-identify as cops. Back in the 60s, it was a bad word. And these days, it's a good word. So, terminology shifts in what's accepted, what's not accepted. So there is this deep ambivalence about the word Hindu. Right. Well, yeah. So, there's the emic and the etic views, the inside and outside views of what's going on in the religion. And so, without going into too much detail, it's sort of a necessary evil, we could sort of put in quotes. So Hindu theology was a way that, as Rita was talking about, was a way that someone like Goswami and myself and others coming up could be able to talk about Krishna Bhakti theology, and that is powerful. Now, we in general don't use the word theology. Prabhupada doesn't use the word theology. So again, one might even ask, what are we talking about? We're talking about Krishna Bhakti philosophy. And philosophy works with axioms that are empirically acceptable. They don't begin with faith stances. And that's what distinguishes theology from philosophy. Now, when I wrote the first chapter to Goswami's book, A Living Theology of Krishna Bhakti, I talk about the nature of theology. And again, we can visit that later perhaps. But I talk about theology as being the subject of understanding and analyzing faith. Now, here's where I took theology out of a sectarian sort of category. I refer to the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, verse 3, where it is stated, and so this is natural theology, which is much more of a philosophical theology. Everyone is possessed of this faith, Shraddha. And according to one's faith, that is what one is. Something to that effect in chapter 17, verse 3. Now, in Sanskrit, Shraddha, we translate it easily as faith. The Gita says everyone has faith. Doesn't matter if you're religious, not religious. Human beings are possessed of faith. So that's a philosophical statement, declaration. And if you understand the morphology of the word faith, Shraddha in Sanskrit, it means where one places one's heart. Yes. So we humans are always placing our hearts on something. So everyone has faith. So now that's philosophy. So you take a book like the Bhagavad Gita, which is often in the West thought of as a theological, a scriptural book, right? So Scripture is the source of theology. But the Gita comes powerfully forward with philosophical statements that are riveting, that need to be brought out more and more. So Goswami was going to go in like a needle with Hindu theology and come out with bhakti philosophy, or whatever, Krishna bhakti theology. So that it's the needle and the plow thing. Okay? So, yes, you have a comment or question? Mm-hmm. Yes. Right, okay. I think I understand what you're asking. So scholar practitioner means someone who's deeply absorbed in the tradition while also articulating it in a scholarly academic fashion at the same time. So what is promoted at the Graduate Theological Union are actual practitioners who also are involved in producing rigorous scholarship without compromise. They're up to the task. And that's what Goswami was doing. In A Living Theology of Krishna Bhakti, he proved himself, and when you write a dissertation, it's there that you have to prove yourself as a scholar. And you have to be, showing your goods, your ability to really be able to use the tools of scholarship, to be able to research as a scholar, and so on and so forth. So Goswami's book, I have many people coming up to me and saying, Garuda, I tried reading Goswami's 5 chapters in A Living Theology, and I'll just be really honest with you. I had a hard time understanding it. I said, yeah, same here. I mean, not exactly same here, but I wanted to make them feel comfortable. Hey, that's not unexpected. In fact, Satsarup Maharaj once called me up and said, I had a hard time, getting through Goswami's 5 chapters. And the reason for that is because he was proving himself with all of his, academic intellectual might so he could earn the doctorate. And then Satsarup said, but your final chapter that you wrote was easy to read. So I very intentionally made the first introductory chapter very readable and the last chapter very readable. And the only reason I wrote the last chapter is because Goswami had written on Sambandha. The next chapter was Abhideya, and then there was no Prayojana. It's like saying, on your mark, get set, there's no go. So obviously, I couldn't let the book be published without Sambandha, Abhideya, and then finally Prayojana. So that was the chapter that Goswami was focusing on while he went to India. But you know what he was also focusing on? As I've written and published about this, he was writing a chapter for a book called Dying the Good Death. How about that? And the disciples, trustees of Goswami's estate had allowed me to have the books that Goswami was carrying in his bag where he was working on this. And these were books on scholars' views of dying the good death. So the scholars in charge of the volume he was to publish this chapter on, which was the last chapter, they called me up because they knew I was a close friend and scholarly associate of Goswami. So I started the first paragraph saying there's some irony in completing this chapter on dying the good death, because Goswami was originally supposed to write this, and he died the good death in the process. So it's kind of ironic, it's a little humorous, and it's painful at the same time. So, it's funny because devotees were writing, and I admonished some devotees who tried to point out that, well, Goswami, the car that crashed was in a holy area of Haridas Thakur. It was in Brahma Muhurta. And I wrote in this article criticizing these. We devotees don't need to sacralize our departures. And I quote Prabhupada twice. It does not matter how a devotee leaves, where a devotee leaves. That's my mother calling. Again, I'm telling you, she's always trying to get a hold of me. Yeah. She departed 10 years ago, but she is using the cell phone system to communicate to me. But anyway, I'm sorry. I don't mean to bring my personal issues into this. But anyway, the point is that Goswami, first of all, Goswami was just brilliant. The way he established those 5 chapters, that I did have to go in and I had to, complete some of the subsections, some of the chapter titles, and so on, which the trustees and also Rasi Kendra and several of the leading devotees taking care of Goswami's estate, they trusted me in this process. But first, Julius Lipner at Cambridge, his dissertation advisor, was the one who held on to it for 3 years to make the edits he thought Goswami would want to see. And Goswami trusted his mentor. So anyway, it's quite a process, but it was necessary, on your set, on your mark, get set, and then I had to do the go. Okay. But how did all of this begin? Yes. It does not matter. A Vaishnava has already died from the world. It is clear that Goswami, he was not of this world. These externals are really epiphenomenal. They're secondary. Yes, they're noticed and they're acknowledged. Fine. But Goswami died to this world a long time ago. So, and this is the way, and in my last chapter in Goswami's book, I talk about how in Krishna Bhakti, in the most advanced stages of Krishna Bhakti, the heart becomes so full of prema, it can no longer contain it anymore. So this is the nature of bhava. It's being, bhava, expanding, and Mukundaji used that word tivra this morning, right? Intense, it becomes so intense that a Vaishnava welcomes a change of body to accommodate the fullness of heart. This is how Vaishnavas die. I tell you, when I go to funerals of non-Vaishnavas, I think they're so sad because I just like, where are they going? And I go to, and I think about Goswami. Well, I was very upset to hear that Goswami left, but not for him. I was upset for moi. You understand French? Yeah, fine, good, okay, good. I just need to make sure everyone understands what I'm saying. So I was upset for me. I was upset for the movement. But how did all of this start? It started back in 1975. Prabhupada wanted to establish a Bhaktivedanta graduate school in Mayapur. And Jai Pataka Maharaj was involved in this at the time. And they both discussed, and they said Ravindra Swarup should be the first professor. And the University of Calcutta would be the authenticating agency for that school in Mayapur. This is how it all began. Well, the Bhaktivedanta Institute was there, but they were science. But we wanted a Bhagavata, college, or Prabhupada wanted. So Ravindra Swarup came to me and said, well, I need to finish my dissertation. I'm sorry. I have some animosity toward the whole educational system, honestly, and sometimes it slipped. I'm really sorry. I apologize to all of you. Yeah, it's a dissertation. Yeah. Dysentery is another thing, but to me, it's somewhat related. But anyway, because going through a dissertation is really a hell of a practice. I mean, it is boot camp for academics. It is boot camp. You have scholars, hovering over what you're working on, critiquing it. Each one thinks their criticisms are better than the other two or three. And, it's a battle. It really is. Getting through a dissertation is very, very difficult. But a necessary rite of passage, at least in the Western system, to receive the highest degree in the land. So Ravindra said, why don't you return to school? See, I dropped out of high school. I dropped out of high school because I didn't like it. My parents were very educated people. Oh, keep going. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that's fine. What's that? Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. So, anyway, that was Rusty Kendra, by the way. If you don't know who he is, it is he right there. Okay, so you don't know it, but he's my boss. It was really strange, but I'm getting used to it after 25 years now. Rusty Kendra was very patient with me throughout the formation of Goswami's first book, and now we're working on a book on Goswami. As he worked on a book on Prabhupada, I am now trying to work on a book on Goswami. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it all started back with Ravindra Swarup, supposed to finish his doctorate, and he said, why don't you finish? So I dropped out of high school. I then somehow got back into college for 3 years because I wanted to learn Sanskrit. But then I wanted to join the ashram, so I dropped out of college. See, I dropped out a lot, okay? But every drop out is a drop in. You understand? Okay, I'm not going to go further unless you understand this very important structure. I dropped out, I dropped in. I dropped out, I dropped in. So Ravindra said, you could be my first student. Go back and finish. You have to have a BA. Go back and finish your BA, and then you can go to Mayapur and we'll study together. I said, fantastic. During this year of 1975 was the year that Rameshwar and the whole BBT in LA was producing one volume of the Chaitanya Charitamrita every 2 weeks. It was miraculous. It was so exciting. Those of you who were back there in those days, wasn't it exciting? It was amazing. And we would get each volume every 2 weeks. And I would sneak out in the ashram hall at night with another devotee, another grahasta devotee. When everyone was asleep, we would go in the hall with our flashlights and read the Chaitanya Charitamrita till 11:30 or 12 at night. Yeah, Mangal Arati was a little hard, but we went every day, on 4 hours of sleep, but we were so energized by the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In any case, that was continuing, and I read there that Mahaprabhu Gauranga took sannyas to convince the intellectual class of persons about Krishna Bhakti. I said, okay, now I get it. The PhD is the danda of the age. This is what is used to convince the intellectual class of the day. So suddenly, Prabhupada or Jayapataka or someone cancels the whole project. Ravindra's finishing his dissertation. I'm in school, not knowing why I'm there now. So I thought I would conduct an experiment. I thought I would apply to the best programs in the country. That turned out to be University of Chicago, where Edward Dimmock was, where he wrote the foreword to Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada loved that foreword. And University of Pennsylvania, which was right there in Philadelphia. So, and the way, when you apply for a doctoral program, you have to write a statement of purpose. And the first thing this really counts. So I was so nervous about doing this, I felt, look, the only way I'm going to know if Krishna wants me to do this is to do something really brazen. I am a devotee of the Hare Krishna movement. This is a doctoral program, biggest professors in the land, right? And I am an initiated priest by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and I intend to conduct studies at your university along those lines. Now, many devotees since then have come to me, how should I apply? I never tell them to do that. That is not the way to apply. But I felt I had to do it to know whether Krishna wanted me there. Well, they accepted me. In fact, both schools. So then Ravindra was shocked. And he said, I don't know if I can authorize this, so you have to go to Rupanuga. And, or maybe consult with Prabhupada. So I went to Rupanuga. Rupanuga said, I think Prabhupada would be very pleased. He said, you should go to University of Chicago. So I went there. Not more than 4 weeks into the semester, Rupanuga calls me up and says, Garuda, I don't think anyone's ever going to do this. So you need to go to Harvard. I said, excuse me, I just got here. I'm in the doctoral program, and you now want me to go to Harvard. No, I just was very stubborn. I said, I'm not going to, okay, I'll try. So I applied, and I got into Harvard. So when I got in, he said, by the way, you're not going to go looking the way you do. I went shaven head to Chicago at tilak, kurta. I didn't wear dhoti. I wear, pajama, yogi pants, right? But he said, you're not going to look like that. You're going to cut off your shika. And I went, no. Anyway, I was very resistant. I was an ashramite. And I did that. I looked like a normal person, as normal as I can look. And that's the way I went through Harvard. So, so Rupanuga sort of pushed me into the Harvard area. Then a few years later, Hridayananda called me up and said, Garuda, well, he would call up, he has names for people, He said, Haribol, Garuda Bird. He said, is this Garuda Airlines? Because there is a Garuda Airlines, and I happen to own the majority stock in that airline. At least I wish. Anyway, the point is, he said, so why are you at Harvard? I said, well, because, Prabhupada wanted it. I gave him the whole background. And he said, well, Prabhupada wanted me to stay in school, but I was a rambunctious brahmachari, and I quit. I said, well, that's your problem. It's really not my problem, Swamiji. I mean, and then he called up the next year. He said, Haribol, is this Garuda Airlines? I said, yes, Swamiji, how are you? You know, and then he asked me, so why are you at Harvard? I said, Swamiji, we've had this talk. This is like a deja vu moment you're giving me here. And I said, and I gave him the history again. The next year he called up again. And you know what? I yelled at him. I said, Swamiji, I'm just going to be perfectly blunt with you. Your dunda doesn't mean a darn thing to intellectuals. The PhD is the dunda of the age. And I hung up on him. The next thing I knew, he was in college. That's how it began. Because everyone knew I was in school since 1976. I was part of the American Academy of Religion, and it was a very lonely path. Everyone knew, oh yeah, Garuda, he's in college, he's in the slaughterhouse, so let him get slaughtered, but the rest of us don't have to. That was pretty much the attitude. But when Hridayananda went to college, and then eventually to graduate school, other people took stock of that. Other people noticed. Krishna Kshetra Swami, he noticed it. Hridayananda, Tamal Krishna Goswami, he noticed it. So it was really Hridayananda that proliferated it, because I was not that prominent. So that's how it all began. So really, where do we take all of this? And I've been talking to Rasi Kendra, I've been talking to other devotional colleagues who have got their degrees, and I think that there's some merit, and I've been dreaming about this for a while, ever since completing Goswami's dissertation publication book for Oxford University Press. I said, we should have a Tamal Krishna Goswami professorship of Krishna Bhakti Studies and Indian philosophy. This professorship would guarantee in perpetuity that someone would come to the university as a qualified professor to appreciate what Goswami had started, what he had really done, and continue the study of Krishna Bhakti studies and further it. And this would be going on in a university, you know, continuously without interruption. So Rita Sharma is very open to having such an endowed chair. But these endowed chairs cost a lot of money. At Harvard, I think it costs $6 million. At GTU, it costs $3 million. So not every school has the same kind of, University of Virginia, I think, is still $3 million. So I would like to see, before I kick this bucket, a Tamal Krishna Goswami professorship that honors his work and perpetuates the culture of Krishna Bhakti studies. That is my dream. So, So we shall see if that can work. Again, the work of Rasi Kendraji and the Tamal Krishna Goswami Foundation is really amazing, because they are continuing to publish Goswami's books. Just last night, Rasi Kendra kept me up in an unreasonable hour. Remember, I'm doing East Coast time. Yeah, okay. So, but we had a wonderful talk about reprinting Jagannath Priya Natakam. So we have a plan to reprint that. And we talked about my writing a foreword for it. In addition to keeping Gary Tubbs' foreword when he was at Harvard, he wrote that foreword. So, I mean, I think, and what Hridayananda said, Goswami continues to be an example for all of us. Even though he took up academic work much later than I did and consulted me on his academic work, well, I look to him as an example. So just because I am, as Hridayananda calls me, the pioneer, Goswami just would perfect anything he did. And anything less than perfection was not acceptable to him. And this could be really hard to work with, by the way. It's a famous saying, perfection is the enemy of the good. Like, don't try for perfection. Just good enough is good. Well, Goswami reverses that expression. The good is the enemy of perfection. Good is not acceptable. We must push the boundaries, push for what is perfect. And that's what he felt Prabhupada demanded of him. So, this is what we are needing to do here. Now, what I'd like to do is share some more slides. We were supposed to take a break. We don't have time. That's ironic, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, since $3 million is very high, bar, Rita Sharma is willing to endow a lecture series in Tamal Krishna Goswami's name. A lecture series and also occasional conferences, which you heard her say she's willing to house again. And everyone that came to the conference just said, we need to keep doing this. This is really important. And we need to do it in honor of Goswami. So for only $300,000, that is not much. If everyone in this room gave $20, we'd probably get pretty close to that or something like that. I'm not good at the math. I leave the math to Rusty Kendra. Leave the Sanskrit to me and the dollars to... Okay, yeah, okay. So this is not a fundraising event. It's a fundraising event. It's a difference. Take off the D. A lot of people don't realize that fund has a D at the end. Do you know what I'm making fun of right now? The word dumb, right? Okay. Anyway, this is Washington. Yeah, some of you know what I'm referring to. Okay. Anyway, so this would be marvelous to have a continuous lecture series at Graduate Theological Union in honor of Goswami, launched at this 80th celebration of his birth, to keep him appearing with his example, with his level of rigorous scholarship, and his striving to push the boundaries of scholarship. And this is what we really need. We really need that. So, talk to Rusty Kendra if you happen to have a bunch of money on hand. Yeah, I might even have some myself. Well, after, Anyway, let me show you some further slides here. How do I do that? Let me see here. So we'll just go on for about, 20 minutes more? The slides open? I think so. Let me see. Here. Oh, there we are. Yeah, it's a slide. Share it. Okay. Share that. Oh, share. There. Okay. Share. Here we go. Okay. Why is it small? Can you make it bigger? Okay. Okay, it's kind of small. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is what I would love to see ultimately, the Tamal Krishna Goswami, Distinguished Professor of Krishna Bhakti Studies and Indian Philosophy. Now, of course, to begin with, we can start with an endowed lecture series. Again, for $300,000, which is a lot less than $3 million. But what a wonderful thing this would be. We might even be able to open it up for, audiences and so on as well. What I've got here is a description of what that would be, but I think I'll wait on that. Let me just go down to the next slide here. Yeah, why establish a professorship or even an endowed lecture series? Oops. Oh, it's not changing? Oh, well, too bad. I can read it. That's fine. Oh, right. Okay, exit. Let's see. Okay, well, we'll just keep it like that. Okay. One, encourage the serious academic study of Srila Prabhupada's theological and philosophical contributions. I mean, this is what Goswami was all about, right? A living theology of Krishna Bhakti. That's what he did. Perpetuate Tamal Krishna Goswami's vision of integrating rigorous academic scholarship with authentic spiritual practice. Establish Krishna Bhakti studies as a permanent field of scholarly excellence within the university. Advance the academic study of one of the world's great philosophical and theological traditions. By the way, Rita Sharma is not herself strictly speaking, a Vaishnava, a Vaishnavi. But her grandfather was a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. How about that? So she has a strong feeling and appreciation for Krishna Bhakti studies. She's told me this herself, and she loves devotees. Whenever they come to get their doctorates at Graduate Theological Union, she's thrilled. And she feels that Achintya Beda Tattva is the culmination of Indian philosophy. How about that? Now, how many scholars appreciate that? Right? Okay. Promote dialogue between Indian philosophy, theology, ethics, religious studies, and the humanities. Support research on Sanskrit texts, devotional literature, contemplative practice, and lived religious traditions. Speaking about that, have you noticed all the books that devotees produce? Isn't it amazing? They've produced endless number of memoirs. I still know some of my godbrothers who are producing memoirs. They've produced translations that are good sometimes and a little mediocre at other times, whatever, but they're getting out there. They're producing, documentaries. They're producing interviews. They're doing, you know what the one thing we're not doing? What our tradition has always done. Can anyone guess? Yes, who said that? You, okay? Come here, you get a book. You wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. There we go. It's happening, and we don't even know it. Our tradition is a Bhashya tradition. As this young lady has declared, she's written a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. On Prabhupada's commentary on Bhagavad Gita? Is that what your Bhashya is? Oh, okay. Well, see, that's very nice. That's great. I also have a Bhagavad Gita published by HarperCollins, and I've written my commentary in there. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a Bhashya. Who was it that was talking about this the other day? Was it Goswami's lecture? Or was it Mukunda? About how Bhashya is writing comments on previous Bhashyas. Who? TKG's talk? Was it Tika or Bhashya? Yeah. Anyway, the whole point is to write a commentary on Prabhupada's commentary. We have not done that. Now, every Bhagavatam class is kind of a commentary on Prabhupada's commentary, isn't it? A kind of impromptu, informal, sometimes abused opportunity, to talk about other things instead of a real strict exegesis, okay? Exegesis meaning generated out from the text itself, right? So we have failed to do this. So Rita Sharma has authorized, as part of the GTU, a Bhashya project on Prabhupada's books. So I'm trying to figure out how that can happen. And devotees who are serious thinkers, like this young lady right here, will be able to contribute Bhashya on Prabhupada's Bhashya, or purports. And it can be done one at a time. And your initials will be by it. You're responsible for that. But it will also be vetted carefully. It has to conform to certain mimamsa rules of interpretation and authority, and so on. So it'll be done very carefully. So we're working that out right now. So again, this is another project that could be occurring at GTU in Goswami's name. Okay? So support research, okay, I already read that. Serve as an enduring beacon for scholars, practitioners, and students seeking a deeper understanding of bhakti and both an intellectual and transformative tradition. Serve as an enduring beacon for scholars. We already read that. I repeated this, sorry. Oh, ensure that Tamal Krishna Goswami's legacy continues not simply as remembrance of the past, but as a dynamic force shaping the future of scholarship, education, and spiritual understanding. This is the most important statement right here. Okay, I'm going to read it again. Ensure that Tamal Krishna Goswami's legacy continues not simply as a remembrance, although that's nice, that's very wonderful, of the past, but as a dynamic force shaping the future of scholarship, education, and spiritual understanding. So let's have Goswami's spirit pushing the boundaries of Krishna Bhakti scholarship in the academic arena. Then finally, why a professorship at GTU? GTU's Center for Dharma Studies has become one of North America's leading centers for advanced scholarship in Hindu theology, apologies to you, philosophy, Sanskrit, and contemplative studies. GTU has enjoyed a close academic affiliation with UC Berkeley for more than 50 years, giving our faculty and students access to the University of California at Berkeley's extraordinary resources in Sanskrit, South Asian languages, philosophy, history, and religious studies. And this is final, perhaps most significantly in the decades since the Center of Dharma Studies was established, 6 current students or PhD graduates have come from the ISKCON community. Yes, that deserves a little applause. Okay. That's it. I think that it is a remarkable statistic and demonstrates that GTU is already becoming an important destination for devotees seeking advanced academic formation. The endowed chair or the endowed lecture series even, would build upon an existing foundation rather than create something entirely new. Okay? So, this is what we're really trying to do. We're trying to continue this legacy of Goswami's book. By the way, don't you, it's still such a beautiful cover, isn't it? Even the editor at Oxford with whom I worked, she wrote to me and she said, this is a beautiful object. This is truly a beautiful object, is the way she put it. And you might notice that I put my name in very little writing below Tamal Krishna Goswami's, honoring him. Normally, if this were something that he and I worked on together, I would have been a co-author, having contributed 2 chapters and editing the whole volume. But I wanted to honor and push Goswami's contribution forward and make sure that what he was doing gets heard. And that's why the introduction is designed to ease people into what Goswami is doing in the 5 difficult to read chapters, okay? And then closing with the final, on your mark, get set, go chapter, right? Now, my first book was published by Princeton University Press. And I remember that was my last meeting with Goswami. We were at the American Academy of Religion meeting in 2001 in November in Denver, Colorado. And we had lunch together along with some other devotee scholars. He kicked the rest of the other devotees out and he said, Garuda, let's go to my room and let's lie down on our left sides. He was very fond of doing that to digest the food. So he took the bed and I took the couch. So we were getting set up. I was lying on my left side. He was lying on his left side. And he said, so Garuda, look, we need to rest. There are a lot of papers we need to listen to in the rest of the conference. So don't start talking to me. I said, fine, but don't start talking to me. You know, it goes both ways. And he said, no, I'm not. No, I'm worried about you talking to me. I said, no, I'm worried about you talking to me. So we got into a fight about that, a loving, bickering fight. Anyway, so we both calmed down. We both were kind of drifting off. And suddenly Goswami starts saying, Guru, did you hear that paper this morning? I said, yes, I heard it. Were you thinking that? And we were like furious at the presentation. We got carried away for 20 minutes. And I said, and then he said, Garuda, you interrupted my rest. I said, Goswami, you were the one who started this. And so we got into another fight about who started what. So this was a very loving fight we had, and we did this for 3 hours. So, and then the final time we had together, he said, I'm very jealous of you. I said, jealous of me? I said, why? He said, well, you're writing about the ultimate Leela of our tradition, the Rasa, Panchadhyayi. That's why I'm showing you this. Because I had just gotten interest from the editor at Princeton University Press, and he just was like amazed, right? I said, but I'm jealous of you, Goswami, because you get to write on Prabhupada. And no one would have ever accepted that from me, because they all knew I was a disciple. But somehow from you, they accept it. And I frankly am very resentful to you. And anyway, so we got into another fight. And so he was jealous of me. I was jealous of him. Anyway, obviously we both had a lot of affection and appreciation and respect for what each other was doing. We consulted each other. And so there's that history. This picture, you know, is in the book, as many of you may know, in the introduction to Goswami's book. And I just think it says everything. That space between them is what I like. It's because Goswami is busy filling up that space. You know, it's not just a picture of Prabhupada and Goswami. So many pictures of Prabhupada and Goswami. This is the one where there's space. And I think we're still supposed to be filling up that space. You know, pushing the boundaries here. Moving between worlds, but while we're in each world, push the boundaries, as Goswami so powerfully exemplified. And that samadhi is in the book, as well as I think this picture here is in the book. And this is where I first got to know Goswami a little bit. In Georgetown, he would set up in Washington, D.C., a very wealthy area of Washington, D.C., and I would watch him from a distance. I was impressed with how beautiful a presentation kirtan was. This wasn't just a bunch of devotees just hanging out with drums and loud wampers, whatever they're called, on the street sidewalk. This was a cultural presentation that was extremely attractive. Mukundaji spoke about these deities traveling in buses, and they would take the deities out, right? Am I correct? This came from a bus. I didn't see the bus, but I stayed clear of Goswami. I didn't like his intensity back in the day, and I told him so. I said, Goswami, I never got near you in the 70s. Now we're working together in the 80s, publishing his book. Now I need to clear up one misconception. A young boy in here came up to me and said, so what was it like being kidnapped by Goswami for 2 years? I said, no, I was not kidnapped for 2 years. I was kidnapped for 4 days. But it took Goswami 2 years to figure out a way to kidnap me. I only was kidnapped for 4 solid days, during which, of course, we spent such sweet time together. In the book that I am writing about Goswami, look, there's so many wonderful memories. Radha Charanji has put together so many beautiful memories, and so many of you disciples have written so much. My book is writing about how Goswami really pushes the boundaries, how this is his character. What I learned from Kalachandji's talk yesterday was that even as a kid, he was pushing the boundaries. Now look, I was a kid once. I know it's hard to believe when you look at me. That laugh was unnecessary. Yeah. But I had friends, and none of them got bitten by a squirrel, honestly. But Goswami gets bitten by a squirrel, okay? Because Goswami is going to really want to get into the space of the squirrel, right? That's Goswami, right? Mukundaji, you know Goswami better than I in those ways, you know. He got into the space, and he got into the space of the skunk, too. I don't know anyone who's been sprayed by a skunk. Nobody, okay? As a child and as an adult. But Goswami got sprayed by a skunk. You see, this is so Goswami. It's just so him. He was courageous. He took chances. He took risks for Krishna. This is one of the great characteristics of Goswami. And here he's talking to Narayan Maharaj. Yes, that was also pushing the boundaries. He went to Narayan Maharaj as to consult with him. I'm going to be writing about that part of Goswami's life. This is not to be hidden or denied, as some would like me to do. But that was a meaningful portion of Goswami's life. And I'm trying to put it all together. I believe this was taken in Cambridge. Not sure. Can anyone confirm? Radhadesh? Oh, I guess that is Radhadesh's building right there. That's right. Very good. As I mentioned, Rusty Kendra and I are talking about republishing this book. And this is the book that took 2 years for me to accept, and the kidnapping henceforth. Okay. You know, I was in Mayapur quite a bit, especially that first Mayapur festival. And I cannot for the life of me remember Goswami at all. It's amazing. I went on morning walks with Prabhupada. There I am. Can you see that? Yeah. I'm not the middle. That's Abhiram. I'm on the right, the little squirt on the right. Okay, in the back there. Yeah. I went on many morning walks. Can you find the Garuda in there? Yeah, it's right there. Yep, right there in the middle. That's right in the back. Along with Satsvarup Maharaj, he's right in the back. Yeah. But again, so many other devotees. Where's Goswami? I really don't know where Goswami was in that festival. I never saw him. So that's curious to me. What happened to Goswami back then? He was probably busy arranging things or something. Or maybe he was with Prabhupada in his room trying to get things ready and so on. I don't know. That's really funny. That's funny, Rusty Kendra. Yeah. We're going to talk later. Mm-hmm. Yep. We're going to have a nice talk. Yep. You and I. Yeah, I didn't qualify as a good-looking young man. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. He didn't want me in the bus. Yeah. So moving between worlds on the devotional and scholarly life of Tamal Krishna Goswami. So this is a book that is finally moving toward a completion. We have engaged, thanks again to the foundation for supporting research help in this. Because I've already got 4 overdue books for publishers that I'm trying to complete. I'm doing this. I've got all kinds of stuff going on. Foundation is so supportive, and I really encourage you to help the foundation with all of these wonderful projects, despite the person who's running it, namely Rusty Kendra. I mean, really, you can get along with him if you find a way. It's tricky. But joking aside, he has done wonderful, wonderful work. And I bow down to his feet for what he's doing for Goswami. Really, let's give him an applause. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. That is enough. I didn't tell you to go on that long, okay? Well, you know, sometimes I see through some of Goswami's disciples, I kind of get a little bit of Goswami from them. Yeah, and so I'm kind of communicating with Goswami a little bit that way. Yeah, he doesn't try to call me like my mother does. But he works through his disciples a little bit too much sometimes. That's right. So anyway, I think in the newsletter you sent out the different chapters that I'm working on, so I won't go into this too much longer. I'll just ask if anyone has any Any comments or things to share, or questions about any of this? Oh, let me mention one thing that. You want to do the Radhanath? Well, let's just mention this. This is important. Okay, yeah.
Prabhuji, are you considering submitting that fourth article to the Back to Godhead magazine?
Oh, the one that Mukunda Maharaj
Yes.
rejected?
Yes.
I don't even know where to find it. I mean, this is like, 45 years ago.
But you have a computer.
Back then we didn't.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, remember? Back
Yes, we didn't
computers
have a computer.
didn't come in until 1983.
We had Telex and Tel Shamlal.
Yeah, I had typewriter.
Okay.
That's my mother again. I'm telling you. She's
Okay, so thank
persistent.
you. I just thought it would be like nearby.
Yeah, interesting. I can look for it. I don't know if it still applies, but it might. One thing that Balaram Leela here from India has informed me about is the world's first research-intensive university dedicated to Indian knowledge and systems, being the building for which is going up next to the Krishna Balaram temple. So if you go to Vrindavan right now, you will see a huge hole in the ground, at least when I was there last December, right? Oh, I thought it was right next to it. Oh, that's the cultural center. Okay, I'm mistaken. Okay, there's a whole other complex. 100 acres. Okay, well, this is going to be a very big project. Maybe we can do something for Goswami there. How about that? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there are endless ways to really celebrate Goswami. Let's not wait till his 90th, okay? Or his 100th. I don't know if I'll be around for his 100th, okay? But if I'm not around, Goswami and I will say, what are they doing down there? What about that professorship? What about the professorship at the new, university in Vrindavan? So there's so many wonderful opportunities. So this is quite a remarkable thing. And I think it's online that you can find this. How would they find it? Under what? Bhaktivedanta University. Just do a search on that. Okay, but that'll come up though. Bhaktivedanta. How many Bhaktivedanta universities are there? Not many. Okay, good. So anyway, this is a wonderful project. Yes, and the Bhaktivedanta Research Center, the Bhaktivedanta Research Center in Calcutta is reprinting an Indian edition of Goswami's A Living Theology of Krishna Bhakti, published by Oxford originally, but they'll do an Indian version of it. So it's a reprint, and they're going to do a fine quality, right? Okay, good. A fine quality reprint of A Living Theology of Krishna Bhakti. So let's give them a hand for doing that. It's very nice. Wonderful. Yeah. Again, this can always use a little bit of support money, and you can find that through the BRC website, how to do that. So anyway, any other comments or questions before we close? Yes? And just because you're way in the back doesn't mean we can't have someone run down there with the microphone. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, for those who are not coming from an academic background,
Yeah.
how can you explain the importance of having a living theology and the importance of intellectual pursuits in bhakti, in theology?
Okay, excellent question. Really excellent question. What is your name?
Abhay Charnaravinda Das.
Oh, that's right. Okay, good. Thank you. So why would that be important? Why did Goswami even bother to go into academics in the first place? He was so widely in demand in so many other ways. He didn't need to do it. It's because in order to establish the Vaishnava view of the world and the Vaishnava view of divine love, establish it in the academic arena, and it trickles down. Do you know the Buddhists have contributed over $200 million to academic institutions for chairs in Buddhist studies? starting in the 1960s with Robert Thurman, who just recently passed away. They used to call him Buddha Bob up at Columbia University. Anyway, he was the first chair of Buddhist studies. $200 million. Why do you think Buddhism is so accepted? If you go up to a professor, say, I'm Buddhist, they say, oh, that's cool. That's cool. You go up to a professor of religion in the university and say, I'm a Hindu. Oh, that's interesting. It ain't cool. You know why it ain't cool? It's because we've done nothing but build temples. I love that we build temples. I think it's great. The TOVP, I'm on the committee of the TOVP to design the ultimate theological focal point. This is just one of many projects I'm working on right now. And, you know, it's wonderful. Millions of people will go through that and be, you know, gloriously inspired by that vision. But the academics is going into culture like a needle, and then it comes down like a plow. Buddhism is in. Krishna Bhakti is not. It is with us, but it's not with the masses. To be a Buddhist is like, it's almost like you know, I'm Buddhist. It's like casual, you know? Wouldn't that be great to say, oh, what are you involved in? Oh, I'm a Krishna Bhakta, you know? Oh, that is so neat. I would love to get that reaction. I'm a Krishna Bhakta. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. That really is so cool. We don't get that yet because we have not established Vaishnava studies in the academy. So the academy is very important, and Goswami knew this. One of the things Goswami supported, that Rasi Kendraji also is supporting currently, just recently, actually in the past several times, the Journal of Vaishnava Studies that Satyaraj Prabhu started in 1992. And it has been engaging the best scholars all around the world on Vaishnava studies. We have been struggling with just supporting the basics of it. And Tamal Krishna Goswami, 4 years after the founding of the journal, even before I was involved with it, in 1996, wrote a very passionate letter to the ISKCON, what was then ISKCON Foundation. Rasi Kendra knows the letter, I know the letter, not many of you know the letter, where he is pleading with ISKCON Foundation to support the journal because we need this desperately to establish Krishna Bhakti in Western culture. He was pleading with them because this was an organization where wealthy devotees could contribute money and they would decide what to contribute money to. Anyway, it didn't really happen, but Goswami actually sent money to Satyaraj to make sure that the journal survived. And the foundation on occasion has also come to its saving grace, and by its saving grace, the journal is continuing. But this is so important. It's the oldest standing journal of any kind of Indian studies in the world. And it happens to be on Vaishnava studies, and so much has been done there. Over 800 articles have been produced. 800 articles for these journals. And when Goswami departed from this world, we devoted a special issue of the journal honoring Goswami. And all of these articles are on Goswami and his contribution. It was really a special. Maybe we should reprint that and make that available for devotees. Yeah, it just needs a small subsidy. Yeah, it's only $6,000 a year. It's a very small subsidy. And the only one who really gets any support for it is Satyaraj, because otherwise he couldn't do it. He has to spend several months for each issue, twice a year. I don't get paid for my editorial work, and others working with it don't get paid. It's only for his survival to do the journal. So that's a small little thing. But Rasi Kendra is on as an advisory consultant now, so he's helping out. Yeah, I've been trying since 2000. I've gotten some university grants. Thank you very much. You're the only one who appreciates that. That's fine. You're the second one. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12. Okay, that's enough. That's good. That's good enough. That's good. Satyaraj. Yeah. So Satyaraj, yeah. But since 2000, I've been trying to keep it alive and support it. He used to do it from his own book earnings, but now he just can't do it otherwise. So there are a lot of good things happening. So yeah, please. So yeah, you get a little exercise, Prabhuji? Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation, and also calling in the different speakers live. It was very, very nice, very modern.
Yes, I had to pay them. No, I'm just kidding. I did not have to pay them. They loved having the opportunity.
It's very nice. It's one of the modern day amenities that come
Yes.
in very handy. So
Yes.
thank you. I'm just wondering, how important do you feel are things like a website, like a modern day easy, maybe an app of the lectures, the accessibility of the 3,000 lectures that Goswami Maharaj gave?
Yes.
I can to some extent follow your passionate appeal of what he could also more do, or how we could solidify the importance of his position and build on it for
Yes.
many generations.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I used to take care of his tape ministry for about 10 years.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, and then Krishna Kirtan Prabhu, he has wonderfully digitalized everything
Yeah.
that Goswami Maharaj was recorded of him. So I'm concerned that these things they're still available. The website is there, but Goswami himself, he doesn't have a website. There is, I think, a WordPress about him, but there's no website to my knowledge. And yeah, like the basics that people nowadays expect, if they would just look up his name, what would they find? It is like confetti. It's not something structurally built, to my knowledge. I sometimes look it up, it's still not there. My son, he even tried, he made a website in 10 minutes with AI. Of course, it wasn't very deep.
Yeah.
But I could see that with the modern day amenities of
Yes.
now, we could do something like this. And I believe that it would add to the credibility of the academic work of Srila Gurudev if the basics would be in order in such a way that is like commonly accepted by the people of the world, scholars or not. I would believe that that is important, that we somehow or other work together to invest in that. How do you view this?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. Now, the thing is this, that the lectures that Goswami gave to devotees is one set of lectures. What he gave to academics is kind of another, remember, moving between worlds, right? So that's one world, then the academic world is another world. So in one sense, you don't necessarily blend both worlds. For example, my good friend Frank Clooney up at Harvard, he's been a professor there for many years. We went to school together, not at Harvard, but at Chicago. And he is a Jesuit priest. And he teaches South Indian Vaishnavism, and yet he's a Catholic priest. He has a whole other world of monks with whom he gathers and shares his love of their tradition. But then when he's at Harvard, he's teaching South Indian Vaishnavism. So there are these different worlds, and they shouldn't necessarily merge. So I think that, Rasikendraji, this is something we can discuss, right? That's it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. It has to be taken care of and built and furthered. Yeah. Yeah. If anyone's interested. Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays there are many younger, like tech-savvy followers. They may not have met Srila Gurudev,
Yes.
but I'm sure that some of them might be interested to do at least something to that
Yeah.
extent. Someone's
Yeah.
nodding here already. Yeah?
Yeah.
You agree? Yes.
Oh, okay. You never know. Thank you for that, though. Very good. I think maybe we have 9 more minutes to 1 o'clock. I think that's when we have to stop. Any other comments or questions? Yes, let's get a microphone. Well, others might not hear you.
I want to take another bite out of that apple that somebody started earlier. This whole question, of Hinduism, I'm just wondering, even you yourself admitted that it's something that you can't even define very well. So how are you going to present?
Into the microphone.
Okay. How are you planning? Aren't you kind of like handicapping yourself when you are like presenting this theology or whatever you want to call it as some sort of Hinduism when Hinduism isn't even something that's well understood what it exactly means?
Yeah. Well, okay. I think there's a point where you can be compromised. I think, someone like Goswami, and I would like to think that others and myself, we're careful not to land there. We may start there, but we raise the consciousness to something more than Hinduism. As Prabhupada himself said, we're not Hindu, we're not Muslim, we're not Christian. But, but we're bhaktas, we're lovers. Prabhupada said we're not a religion. He wrote this in a letter. You know what he wrote? We're not a religion, we are a process of purifying the heart. These are powerful words. I published this in an article. We are not a religion, we're a process of purifying the heart. And when Goswami was talking in the lecture we heard yesterday morning about the mountain, I love this analogy of the mountain, right? They go very high. They also go deep, apparently. I didn't know Goswami was a geologist. Do they go deep? I guess they do. Anyway, I'm going to look into this as a metaphor because that's exactly what we're about to do. We want to go to the highest. In fact, Krishna challenges every reader of the Bhagavad Gita. In the last verse that Krishna speaks to Arjuna, in chapter 18, verse 72, he presents a rhetorical question. Have you heard this whole teaching with focus on the single highest point? Have you heard this teaching, the whole teaching, with thought on the single highest point? This is the embedded hermeneutic by which we are supposed to understand the Bhagavad Gita. So in my presentation of the Bhagavad Gita, which complements and supports Prabhupada's Gita, which is the original reason why I did it, why I wrote it, I show that the single highest point of the Bhagavad Gita is about the purification of the heart. How do our hearts get purified? By Krishna's greatest secret of all. Sarvaguyatamam bhuya shrinu me paramang vachaha ishtosi me dhritamiti tato vakshami tehatam. The greatest secret of all, here once again, my supreme message. You are so much loved by me. Are you hearing this? You are so much loved by me. And it's because Krishna loves us, desires us, that we then can love him. And that is our whole process. Oh. That is our whole process. Krishna is already embracing us with his Brahman and Paramatman manifestations. He's already embracing us. When will we return the embrace? The Maha Mantra is the return embrace. That's what we're doing when we chant the Maha Mantra. And that's why we're promoting this scholarship on Krishna Bhakti, because very few people appreciate the greatest secret of all. It's right there, and yet we don't know what it is. Sarvaguyatamam. Anyway, so I'll end here, and I want to thank you all for your attention and your appreciation for all of Goswami's wonderful works. And happy birthday, Goswami.
Hare Krishna. Let's give His Grace Guru Prabhu one more big round of applause. Haribo. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for explaining things in a way that even I could understand. I was worried that it would go way over my head. I didn't think so either. Thank you so much. Let's give him one more big round of applause. Haribo. Thank you. So right now we have prashadam. It'll be served shortly downstairs in the activity room. And this evening we'll gather again here in the temple room at 5 p.m. And continue memories and offerings for His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And then tomorrow morning for the class, we'll have class by His Grace Sunanda Prabhu. So please plan to come for that. Thank you so much. Srila Gurudev ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
curb.
Oh, they just don't want to park there?
Yeah.